Oh, what up?
Yeah, that's a Bracken. Just look at him.
What up, buddy? Lethal Company is a multiplayer co-op game. Well, supposedly it's supposed to be a co-op game, but you can play it solo, and I'm going to be talking about that later. But it's a really fun game that people are clipping a lot. There is a lot of Lethal Company clips. And there is a reason for that. There is one aspect of Lethal Company that makes it better than everything else in the horror genre, and that is its dynamic in-game proximity voice chat. That mechanic makes the game 10 times better, leagues way better than any other horror game. The only other horror game I can compare it to, and safely compare it to, is SCP Secret Laboratory, which is a very similar game in vein. I think even the game developer took a bit of inspiration from SCP Secret Laboratory, and you could tell, right? The eyeless dog is an SCP-939 reference.
Dog's reach is broken.
The whatever you call it, the goddamn mannequin thing, that's reference from SCP-173. But yeah, this game is clipped a lot. There's so many goddamn clips. Bisexual people when they see Lethal Company clips. The function, god damn, there's so many goddamn clips of this. This game is absolutely clearing, by the way, on Steam. What, 100,000 reviews on Steam in the past month, I think? And that should probably equate to like a few million sales. But let's talk about the current state of the game. First, let's talk about co-op. It dominates games like SCP Secret Laboratory and Phasmophobia. Lethal Company co-op is really fun if you play it with friends, and if you play it with proximity chat. The proximity voice chat in Lethal Company inhibits your level of communication to your other teammates.
I got
Whoa,
three things already.
you believe in Brackens, dude? Really?
Monsters, what are you, like, 5?
Which is a very interesting way to play the game if you cannot communicate with your teammates continuously, unless you have a radio.
We got a can that was worth 68. I think cracked Bracken though.
But even the radio is a bit weird to listen to. It's a bit hard to understand what your teammates are saying in the radio, and sometimes it can lead to really funny moments. It's a really interesting mode of gameplay, and it allows for many interactions and organic, dynamic situations to occur. But let's talk about the non-dynamic situations. Let's talk about the gameplay itself. The gameplay is kind of just walking around, finding loot, and then walking back. It's basically all you're doing in the game. But there's monsters interspersed in between those loot sometimes. It's really weird how they spawn in. They sometimes spawn in, they sometimes don't. I'm pretty sure they spawn in way more often and frequently the later it gets on in the day, which is also a pretty interesting mechanic because it forces you to be on a time schedule. You gotta go collect this before, let's say, 5 p.m. Otherwise, the goddamn monsters will get you. And it's not just the monsters indoors. There's also monsters outdoors, which is way harder to fight against and run away from. Those monsters will absolutely kill you the second they set their sights out on you. So you gotta play it carefully. The monsters in this game are absolutely overpowered.
Right next to it.
Let's say Bracken. You want this, buddy? Ah! Run away! Run away! Which does add to the fear factor, and also makes players more wary around the creatures. There are tools you can buy to help circumvent those creatures, but they are all real goddamn gimmicky. In almost all the clips, you don't see them using those jetpacks or teleporters or whatever, because they are just real gimmicky and kind of useless. The only people who'd be using those are like the professionals, the pro gamers. The only good utilities are the flashlight and the radio, which is what everyone will just be using. No one else will be using anything else. My first issue of this game is the inventory management. There's only 4 slots in your inventory, and each utility that you use, like a flashlight, a radio, a jetpack, will use up 1 slot, which is absolutely unbalanced for the game, especially if you're doing solo. If you're taking a flashlight and a radio with you, that it's already 2 slots you're using up, and then you can only have 1 slot for carrying something that's small and then another slot for carrying something that's big. It is fine if you're doing 4-player co-op. If you're doing 3, maybe it's a bit unbalanced. 2, way too unbalanced. 1, impossible. which I guess you would be using a radio then. So yeah, scratch it out. You can use just a flashlight for 1 player. That's 3 slots available to you for 1 player. And I haven't even talked about what happens if you don't collect those loot, because you have a deadline to meet every 3 days. If you don't meet that quota, you're basically ejected and you restart the whole game. It's kind of in the same vein as a roguelike, where you have to basically go as far as you can, make it as far as you can, and if you die, you just restart all the way to the back and you do it all over again. The further you get into the game, the more tools you can buy, the better well equipped you are. And with your newfound knowledge, you basically just do the game all over again, but slightly better, maybe? Hopefully if the RNG doesn't kill you. But let's talk about the atmosphere of the game. So you're basically just traversing in a ship. You land on moons, and you go inside buildings and collect scrap from them. That's basically all you do. When you're just by yourself, you don't have people talking to you, making funny goddamn memes. You hear things in the distance. Maybe it's from the atmospheric track. Maybe it's from your friends making noise. Because your friends can make a noise, and that noise will be really loud. When your friend dies, your proximity chat also dies with them, so you can't hear what they're saying afterwards. So you can't get any outside or ghost information. And while we're on the topic of atmosphere, the way you sell your scrap is really wacky. It's kind of a wacky mechanic. Basically, you just set your items on a counter, and then you ring the bell. And then you have to step back a few feet because there are goddamn tentacles to come out and grab the items. Which makes this really weird because you're basically given items like a Leviathan creature, like some HP Lovecraftian creature. Which is kind of creepy, a bit dystopian, because why are we doing this? What's the lore behind this? We'll never know until the developer gives us some lore. Like SCP Secret Laboratory, the facility layout is completely random, so you could either get a good layout where all the item spawns are easy to collect, or a bad layout where it's either hard to get the spawn items or actually just impossible, especially if you can't find a fire exit. I'm not going to talk about the creatures in depth because there's already way too many videos that go way too in depth into them. So if you want to go see that, then go see that. There are Lethal Company mods to make it way more better. There are quality of life mods like having flashlight and radio take up a separate slot, so you can actually use 4 of your slots while having utilities, which I think should be in the main game. I think that the developer should actually have that just be in the main game. There are mods to make the game look better and actually upscale it, so you can actually see and read what's going on from more than 2 meters away. Basically, mods make Lethal Company way better, and I think the developer should be taking notes from these mods and maybe be adding them as main features for the game. Hopefully, because I think Lethal Company could be way more than just a quirky little... I mean, it's just a quirky little co-op game, but I mean, come on. Make the game 10 times better, right? By adding in features that make sense and not make the game just a hassle to play with, especially solo. Solo gameplay needs to be way better, needs to be way more refined. It doesn't need to be the focus of the game. You don't need to have the game just be a solo game with multiplayer added in as a side. The multiplayer should still be the focus, but solo should be way more fun to play because there are some people out there who are a bit lonely who just want to play a little co-op game by themselves, Let them play the game. Alright, yeah. Anyways, that was my review and critique of Lethal Company. Sorry if this was a bit lazy. I don't care if it's lazy. I don't care if I stumbled a few words or did a few mistakes or whatever, or didn't go too in depth, because I'm working on something big. I'm working on... Okay, if you actually made it this far into the video and you're still listening and you're actually interested in what I'm working on The Walking Dead Destiny's review and critique and analysis. So if you're interested in The Walking Dead, then you should subscribe, because I think it could be a really good video that I'm working on. It's kind of like a Joseph Anderson-esque video, but basically, yeah. If you're interested in that, then subscribe, turn on bell notifications. It should be coming out soon after December, which is a long time away. I guess it's whatever if I'm working on the video. It's gonna be way more high efforter than this video, at least, Why am I still yapping on? This is gonna be longer than the video itself. Alright, bye-bye.
I'm like fucking Snoop Dogg. I'm weeding out.
Love the drugs. The druggers.
The other druggers? Oh, I'm holding down really long. I think I'm actually gonna overdose if I keep holding onto this. The smoke's appearing on my screen.